And joining me now is Dr. Leila AliKarami, Iranian human rights activist, joining me from London at the moment. Like many human rights activists in virtual exile outside Iran at the moment. Appreciate your joining us, Dr. AliKarami. How do you see the protests that are taking place in Iran? Women coming out on the streets, publicly taking off their hijabs after the death of a 22-year-old woman, Mahasa Amini. How do you see it? Do you believe this represents a major change, a transformation that was waiting to happen in Iran?
You know, people are shocked and deeply saddened by the death of, a 22-year-old girl. She was another victim of Iran's sustained repression and systematic discrimination against women. Iranian women have been suffering from discriminatory laws, and one of these laws is compulsory hijab. So people are not happy with the situation, and they wanted to show their objection. They are practicing their constitutional rights, and which is absolutely legal based on Iranian constitution, to come and demonstrate and show your objections. The imposition of discriminatory dress code deprive women of bodily autonomy and the freedom of opinion, expression, and belief. Women in Iran see hijab as a symbol of oppression. And according to Iranian criminal code, a woman's refusal to wear a hijab in public is a criminal act punishable by a fine or imprisonment. And over the past 4 decades, Iranian women have continued to peacefully protest against the compulsory hijab rules and the violation of their fundamental human rights. And
but as you said, they've been, ma'am, they've been quietly protesting, peacefully protesting, but now they seem to be hitting the street. Has the death of Mahasa in a way changed something? Has that made them believe now or never? A sense which didn't exist maybe in the past. Are we seeing something genuinely different this time in the nature of the protest?
This time, women are the leaders of the protest. Women came to the streets, and but Iranians are united, become united. Half of the population of Iran are women, and as I mentioned, they're suffering discrimination for many years, and Iranian government adopted policies to put more restriction on women. And those policies have already, it's sure that they haven't worked, and it's long overdue, but the Iranian government must to start respect the rights of women, and that would be far better for the government and for the population. You see more women, they are taking off their headscarf and they are joining the protest and demonstration in the streets. So what is changed this time is that we see men and women, they are supporting each other. Usually when there is uprising in the country, we see people demanding their rights, but in this time in particular we see more women, this is
but will it sustain? But Dr. Leila AliKarami, do you believe it will sustain, or do you believe this will only is it momentary? Do you really believe that the Iranian government and the religious clergy will agree not to make the wearing of hijab mandatory? Do you really believe that these protests will actually force the government to bend? Do you really believe that?
I think, if not this time, but, people, they are continue their protests in different ways. Unfortunately, as I said, the Iranian government are using necessary violence against the protesters, and this is not fair and this is not right. But if they manage to oppress and to arrest people and, force them to go back to their homes, but this won't be the end, because when the situation is discriminatory, I said over 40 years, people are objecting to compulsory hijab. This is the right of women over their body, and it's not, no one can force them. It's against Iran's international obligations, it's against international law, and it's against Iran's constitution itself, because we need to, the Iranian government should respect the freedom and fundamental rights of its citizens, and we cannot oppress the citizens for
I take your point. No, I take your point, Dr. AliKarami, but since the revolution in 1979, the protests that have taken place have never been sustained, and eventually the government of the day has been able to crush them, and women have been forced in the past also to then return to their homes and not be out there on the streets. Do you believe, though, that do you believe that this will therefore, we are now in 2022, not in 1979. Are the women now feeling more emboldened, stronger as a result of social media, as a result of all these images going across the world? Do they feel now that they have more support than ever before?
The use of social media, because these kind of the objection and to the situation has always been there, but now we have social media. You hear more news about the objection of women to policies and discriminatory laws. But the situation has changed for sure. But if they're gonna be successful to bring change to discriminatory laws, if the religious establishment agree to change the legislation to remove the compulsory hijab, that's I think I don't have the answer to that, because I'm not sure whether is still the time, because whether the Iranian government really want to because this is a very important issue for the Iranian government. This is the only area that they can claim to be an Islamic state, and because they want to show it through compulsory hijab, the headscarf, the Islamic form, and the dress code for women. This is the only area that they can claim to be an Islamic state. And so I really doubt that any change is going to happen at this moment. But this doesn't mean that the Iranian women will actually stop their activities. And I'm really hopeful that the government will stop using that.
Right. My final question to you. In India, there is a debate going on whether hijab is an essential part of Islam. Do you believe that hijab is an essential part of Islam, or do you believe that hijab must be a matter of choice? If a woman wants to wear it, she has the right to do so. If she doesn't, she must not be forced. And her family members or indeed clergy, no one has the right to force anyone, constitutionally or otherwise, to wear a hijab. Do you believe it's essential to Islam, or that's all bogus?
No, it's a matter of choice, because there are disagreements amongst Islamic jurists and Islamic, establishment. As we saw, we see Iran and a few other countries. I think Afghanistan, they're forcing hijab. In most of the Muslim countries, hijab is not compulsory. And how many Muslims are living around the world? And in how many Muslim countries is hijab compulsory? So this is not essential to Islam. If it was essential to Islam, every Muslim around the world should have wear hijab. It's not essential. It should be a matter of choice. And there are a lot of discussion, a lot of literature available whether hijab should be compulsory or whether women should have choice over wearing hijab or not. So it's not, there is no consensus among Islamic jurists about the hijab and the form of the hijab. As we see in Iran also, the hijab 40 years ago in the beginning of the revolution is totally different with the hijab at this time, because first years of revolution, we see that the black chador and black headscarf was compulsory in governmental, departments and organizations. But even now, we see even from the authorities, women belong to authorities, they are not wearing, long chador or black chador. They change the form. But the form of hijab, whether we should have hijab or not, I think these are not essential to Islam, but it should be a matter of
let me leave it there. What you're saying clearly, you're speaking very clearly. You're saying it's not essential in your view to Islam. It should be a matter of choice. And this protest by the women in Iran should be widely supported. I appreciate you joining us on this very, very sensitive topic. Thank you so much, Dr. Leila AliKarami, for joining me there from London. Thank you.
Thank you very much.